Good morning everyone and welcome to this special assembly. Now I wonder, does anybody know why Sunday the 13th of September, Sunday that's just gone by, why that is a special date? What might be special about that date? I'm going to ask your teacher to pause this video for 30 seconds and you can have a chatty box with your partner and see if you can work out why Sunday the 13th of September this year was a special date. The reason, everyone, that was a special day, and I hope that some of you knew this, was because it was Roald Dahl Day. We celebrate Roald Dahl Day on the 13th of September because that was his birthday. Now, I know that lots of you love to hear Roald Dahl stories, and so do some of our teachers, and they're desperate to tell you all about those stories. Enjoy.
Hi St. John's and happy Roald Dahl Day. I'm going to tell you about one of my favourite Roald Dahl books, which is probably one of the most famous ones, and I think most of you would have heard of it before. It's called Matilda, and it's about a super bright little girl who loves to read. And when I was a little girl reading this book, I would always wish that I was more like Matilda. She had so many magical powers. She could move things with her brain and with her eyes. She really concentrated hard enough. And I thought that she was absolutely great. I also really love the character of Miss Honey because she's a really gorgeous, lovely teacher who Matilda really looks up to. So I really hope that you can read Matilda, and I hope that you really enjoy the characters as much as I do. Bye!
Hello St. John's. So I am talking about one of my favourite Roald Dahl books called the BFG. Now, you might have noticed that I am rather tall. So the idea of the big friendly giant is one that makes me quite happy and quite proud, because this is about a giant who is quite a friendly giant. And you know that our value of the term is wisdom. And I think the BFG has lots of wisdom because he chooses not to eat human beings, or human beings as he says. He chooses instead to catch dreams and give young people lovely dreams. There is so much action and adventure in this book and I love reading it. So I would recommend that if you're thinking of a Roald Dahl book to read, you should look no further than the BFG.
Hi everyone, it's Mr. Smee. So when I was asked what my favourite Roald Dahl story was, I found that a little bit difficult actually, because when I was a little boy, when I was growing up, Roald Dahl was one of my favourite authors. I would read all of his books. I really liked seeing the films that were based off of his books. And my pick actually is one of those that was turned into a film, because one of my favourite Roald Dahl storybooks is James and the Giant Peach. This was made into a film as well, but I first read it as a book, and it was my favourite because what I really like about it is how it takes the ordinary, the everyday things like a peach or bugs, all the different characters that James meets on his magical adventure. And it takes them from what they are ordinarily, like every day, and makes them amazing, makes them fantastic, using those wriggly, glowy green worms that James gets at the beginning of the story. It makes the peach gigantic. It makes these little bugs huge and able to talk and have these amazing adventures. And I would always wonder what would happen if I were to give those little wriggly green worms to things in my life. What amazing adventures might I go on?
Hello, St. John's. It's Roald Dahl Day, one of my favourite days. And I found it a bit difficult to find my favourite book, but then I narrowed it down to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory because I absolutely love chocolate. But actually, really, most importantly, I love all the characters in this book. I was thinking the other day, actually, how lovely the characters are in their own little way, but also how in contrast Charlie is to all the other characters who are kind of greedy and pushy and spoiled, and they just want more and more and more but actually it kind of shows, a bit like the hare and the tortoise, you know, slowly they win the race. If they actually kind of take the time, they persevere, he wanted to learn, he wanted to work hard, and actually in the end, such a magical thing happens from it, and all his family, who are cramped in that tiny one kind of bedroomed house, are all now in this amazing mansion. So it really shows you can be anything you want to be, with maybe a little bit of magical on the way. I love the Oompa Loompa characters as well, because I think here I've got my own little Oompa Loompa with his ginger hair. And if you haven't read Charlie the Chocolate Factory and you've only maybe watched the film, I still think it's really worth the read, because the amazing language that is used. I love Quentin Blake and all the illustrations that he does too. And I really give this 10 out of 10.
Hi St John's and happy Roald Dahl Day. Roald Dahl is honestly one of my favourite authors. He was my favourite author when I was about 7 or 8 years old. I absolutely loved him, and I read so many of his books. Not just once, but again and again, because I loved them. And I think what I loved most about Roald Dahl's books was how nasty the baddies are. He's really good at writing horrible but very funny characters. And at the end of Roald Dahl's books, those horrible baddies always get their comeuppance. Something really silly happens to them and they get their just desserts. But my favourite book is The Twits. And I can really remember reading The Twits for the first time because I loved the drawings. They used to make me laugh and laugh. And Quentin Blake was the illustrator that Roald Dahl worked with a lot. And Quentin Blake does such great illustrations to go with Roald Dahl's words. Now, there's a picture in here that I can remember seeing for the first time, and I kept looking at it for ages and ages, and it's this diagram of Mr. Twit's beard. Mr. Twit is a really disgusting eater, and Roald Dahl tells you all about what Mr. Twit looks like and how all he does after he's eaten, with his bad table manners, getting food all over his big bristly beard, is wipe his chin with the back of his hand. So if you look closely in Mr. Twit's beard, you will see bits of cheese and fish tails and cornflakes all stuck in his beard because he's such a disgusting, messy eater. And I really remember this picture when I first read The Twits. The Twits is a great book to start with if you haven't read any Roald Dahl before, because it's not too long and it's very funny. So I hope that you enjoy Roald Dahl Day, and I hope that you might feel inspired to have a read of The Twits, one of my faves.